Are we live? It says we're live. Thing is a big black screen. Working, not working. Ah, there you are. Okay. Pop out the chat window. Pop out chat. Alright. Says I'm streaming. I have the chat window here. Hey everyone, it's Karnak, Star Wars Armada Explained. After 2.5 years, we finally get a new FAQ for Star Wars Armada. A month before Worlds. Oh, hey Scott Jones, thanks for letting me know. Let me know if audio and everything sounds okay. After 2.5 years, we finally get a new FAQ. And for some of you that may or may not know, I'm going to be judging at Worlds this year. I'm going to be judging with Brooks Levette. They are another awesome individual. They are a former developer for FFG. Unfortunately, they were let go earlier this year, along with the other mass layoffs that happened. But they are going to be judging with me. So we're glad to have this material to go over as judges and discuss. It definitely does not answer all the questions that I have or that I submitted, and it even kind of just completely went the opposite direction of what I thought. So, oh man, let's dive right in. So some of this stuff is old news. Like some of this stuff has been around in email clarifications for years, and they're just now finally like, oh yeah, we should put that in the FAQ. Oh yeah, you should have done it 2 years ago. But anyway, let's dive in. So anything new in the FAQ is going to be marked in blue text, and let me make sure it's not going to screw up with having that there and scrolling through things. Nope, it seems like my window should be okay right there. All right. So anything new is going to be marked in this blue text, and this FAQ is not official until March 9th, which I think is this Friday, right? No, not until next Monday. So you have a whole week. So if there's any primes this weekend, which I don't know if there is or not, this FAQ doesn't affect that. Although I honestly don't see any reason why they wouldn't enforce it if questions came up. All right. So first thing on the blue text here, we have Admiral Raddus. That's already done, dusted. That's a month old. They dropped that at the start of the month when they released the new expansions. That was in their official rules form. They dropped that in the evade update. So that's nothing new, but again, just what it does, it makes Raddus, you can only deploy a ship at distance 1 to 2 of the Raddus ship, no longer just any ship in the game. Raddus is no longer, I'm Batman, it just can appear wherever he wants, or not, whatever he wants. It just made Raddus super frustrating to fight, because it essentially made your deployment worthless, because you couldn't deploy against him, and just was super frustrating, and I never played him. I didn't like playing against them. I actually now have played a few games with New Raddus, and yeah, it's like, oh man, some people complain like, oh, they know where you're coming from. It's like, well, yeah, it actually means you can have a real deployment instead of not a real deployment. I like New Raddus. Okay, moving along, we finally have a ruling on hyperspace migration. So here, it's really funny. They messed up where this should go, but that's all right. So in the errata for hyperspace migration, it says the end of round rule for this hyperspace migration objective should read, for each ship, if it has an objective token on it, remove that token, and that ship's owner gains 1 victory token. If it has no objective token on it and is at distance 1 of a Purrgil, place 1 objective token on that ship, then players move Purrgils. So it clears up, because before it was like, which one goes where? So now they absolutely have clarified it. You do the end of round of the objective first before Purrgils move. I didn't mind how it was before, that the second player had the option of doing either or, but now it's clarified and now we know. Now it's objective first, then Purrgils. What also should be in the errata, I don't know why they put it as a clarification. It's not a clarification because it is a hard errata for hyperspace migration, so I don't know why they didn't put it up there. But anyway, during the same round, a ship can either receive an objective or remove an objective token from itself to receive a victory token. This means a ship can only score every other round. Players move Purgles as normal after all ships gain or discard tokens. So that either or, that needs to be a hard errata. Like, why didn't they put that in the hard errata? Why is it in a clarification? It's not a clarification. It needs to be hard errata because it's or, which is what you need. Just wording. It matters and it needs to make sense how it's put down. Ultimately, it does answer the question. It sucks. You have to look at both sections to figure that out. Luckily, I'll have the Karm. I won't have to look at two stupid clarifications to figure it out. Ugh. Anyway, it went how I knew they would eventually rule it, but again, it comes back to the fact that the original wording in the card was crap. And I don't understand why they just say that in the card to start with. But now it's clarified. Hyperspace migration, done and dusted. Only every other round. Perfect. I can live with that. That makes the objective reasonable, not crazy insane. Okay, and it's nice to have the clarified what the Purgles are doing. Alright, here's some stuff for the Onager class Star Destroyer. Again, this is stuff that should have been released in the document. For whatever reason, they forgot to put it in, and that's, again, while defending extreme range, the evade effect can cancel 2 die instead of the 1 at long, etc. So much needed clarification on the Exogorphs in that when doing Exogorph attacks, it is the opponent of the squadron being attacked who now rolls the dice. Because before, and it was bullshit, and I didn't agree with it, but I didn't have any raw to stand on, now I do. Because before, the second player could be like, oh, I pick this worm to attack, and even though I'm attacking my squadrons, oh, I'm choosing not to spend any accuracies on any of my squadrons, so any scatter aces would just scatter, the damage. And it was bullshit, and I knew it was bullshit, and I'm thankful that they put that in there to clear that. That's what, again, it should have just said to start with. Your opponent makes the attack roll. You choose which one goes first, and then your opponent makes the attack roll. That's how it should have been written from the start. I'm glad it says it now. So there's no more of that bullshit. The only other thing that they didn't clarify is, again, people are going to say, I'm going to stack my Exogorphs on top of Exogorphs on top of Exogorphs, and they didn't clarify that, but there is enough in the rule book for me as a judge to justify saying there will be no Exogorph bullshit stacking if you come to Worlds. Like, that's not going to fly. Don't even try it. If I see it, I will give warnings for it. And that's something I will state up front before we even start, the tournament. It's on my list of things to go over. Pending review and discussion with some other people, but I'm 99% confident you're not supposed to stack them. All right, let me make sure if I've got any questions or anything on here. If you do have questions about like rulings or certain things, be sure to toss them out. I'll make sure that I'm responding to it in real time. Yeah. All right, getting on to some more Rebellion of the Rim stuff. It's just going over clarifications about, how should you set up on a 3x3, because the only way people knew how to set up on a 3x3 is if you had the core set and you look at the Learn to Play manual to see how you should set up on a 3x3, because the standard rules reference doesn't tell you. So people were confused about how to do it. Well, now they've got it there. That's great. Ship command upgrades. This is again for Rebellion the Rim. How do you get huge ships and large ships, and how to repair, and this, that, and the other thing. The conquest, demonstration, force, evacuation. It's all Rebellion the Rim related. I'm not going to cover that because that's Rebellion the Rim. And by and large, it's just have fun. Make sure you agree on rules stuff before you get started. Super Star Destroyer, deploying ships. When a player deploys a huge ship, it may extend outside of that player's deployment zone as long as its base is completely within the setup area, touching that player's play edge. So again, people were putting it on the back edge and then making it go outside of the setup area or doing other crazy stuff, which is like, no, man, read the rules. Like, that stuff all still applies, but people will do whatever they want, and so now they're like, no, you can't do that. This is how you're supposed to do it. So not that those people before had a leg to stand on, but now they absolutely don't. You have to keep your Super Star Destroyer in the setup area. It just can't go wherever it wants. Okay. I'm glad we got that clarification, because that will come into effect when we get to surprise attack. Let's see here. What's some more information going on? FAQ about commands. They are re-clarifying this portion. So we already had this portion. They're just re-clarifying it because people are want to read how they want to read things, and so they had to re-clarify it to be like, no, this is absolutely what we're saying. Stop trying to twist this meaning to mean something else. Again, if a ship wants to spend a command dial and token of the same type, does it have to spend them simultaneously, i.e. together at the same time? Not, I do my dial and then maybe I'll do my token. You know, no more of that. There never was any of that, but people, again, were still trying to do that. Now it's absolutely clear. Yes, it must already have both the dial and token. It must spend them together. For example, when a ship with both a concentrate fire dial and a token decides to resolve that command, it must decide whether it's spending the dial, the token, or both before resolving that command's effect. Again, that stuff as rules people and smart people we already knew, and that's how we already were enforcing things, but now it's spelled even more clearly in stone. They've chiseled it out. It's like Moses, he came down from the mountain with the first set of commandments, had to break those, go back up, get the second set, came back down. Like, that's the FAQ clarification on this. They had to clarify it even more so people would stop trying to break things. So I'm glad for that. What's some new blue stuff we got in here about commands? So after a ship discards a raid token assigned to it, can that ship resolve that command during the same activation? We already knew the answer to this, but it's glad to still have clarification. It says yes after a ship reveals and discards its dial or command tokens to discard a raid token. That ship can spend a command token or an additional dial at the appropriate time to resolve that command. I have a huge problem with this clarification, because before raid said you either discarded your dial to clear all raid tokens, or you discarded a command token to clear a raid token. Now it says you can discard command tokens to discard raid tokens. So it's just like, oh man, you answered a question, but now you've caused another question. Because before it was simple, you discard dial to get rid of all raid, or you discard a single command token to discard a single raid token of the same type. Now it's saying command tokens. Does that mean I can spend as many command tokens as I want to discard as many raid tokens if I want of the matching types? I don't know. They just caused a new question with this answer that I now have to write down and resubmit and get a clarification on that. I mean, I'm going to go with my gut feeling is that when they're saying or command tokens to discard a raid token, they're meaning just any token you discard that matches the raid token type. I'm 99% certain that's what they mean by that, but somebody out there is going to be like, oh, it says it right there, oh, command tokens. I can discard all of my command tokens and discard all the raid tokens. Somebody's going to say that because that's how they're going to choose to interpret it. I'm going to tell you right now, don't interpret it that way. That's not how it's meant to be interpreted. It just sucks that their choice of wording in there was so poor. But I'm letting you know, again, dial to get rid of all raid, or a single token to clear one raid token, not as many tokens as you want. Alright, when a player resolves an effect that allows them to change face-down command dials assigned to an opponent's ship, is that player allowed to see what commands were previously set on those dials? Yes, the player resolving the effect gains the knowledge of the command on those dials. This one was an email clarification from years ago. Alright, we already knew the answer to this question. But most people didn't care to remember it. It's in the CARM. You know, I made sure to put that email clarification in the CARM, but now it's an official FAQ. Yes, you can know what that previous command was. Again, that's something we knew an answer to 2.5, 3 years ago. Finally getting put in the FAQ. Great. What do we get into now? When a ship is deployed, does its shield dial need to be within that fleet's deployment zone? Again, this is just stuff we already knew that just people want to be nitpicky about. No, when measuring a ship's distance from the edge of the play area as to whether that ship is in the deployment zone, ignore its shield dials and the plastic portions of the base of that frame on the shield dial. Again, we already knew that because that's how it already works for if a ship goes off the table or not. So if it's the same for that, we would assume it's the same for this. It is. People, again, just want to ask questions like that, and it's great that we have clarification for it. Okay, it's never not wrong to get clarification. It's just some of it is just pretty just like, well, yeah, duh. All right, getting on to this is just a re-clarification of something that was already in here about, you know, squadrons and relay. Does the squadron with relay need to be at close medium range of the ship that is activating squadrons so that those squadrons can activate? Yes. The relay squadron must be in range to be activated by that ship. but that ship's squadron activation range can also be affected by other effects such as boosted comms. Meaning if the squadron's at long range and it's being activated, of course you can still relay from there. People, again, were trying to be nitpicky and be like, oh, it doesn't say it, doesn't actually say it. It's like, well, no, the intent is clear. You're just being nitpicky because you want to be. All right. Here is just one that just, it already states in the RNG you can only equip. Anyway, people were assuming somehow, somewhere, that you could equip more than one title upgrade card to a ship. So some people, I guess in some areas, were running around with 7th Fleet Star Destroyer Avengers or MC-80 Mon Calamari Exodus with Ammunition. Like, I don't know where those people are playing at, but whatever they're drinking, I want some. That's some pretty mighty fine Kool-Aid they got there. No, you can only ever equip one title to a ship, and even if you read like the little booklets that come with, most people don't read them. It even states that in there. It's just finally in here because so many people were just like, oh, it doesn't say I can't, so I can. That has been creeping into Armada more and more and more. It doesn't say I can't, so I can. And you can hear the frustration in my voice because I've had to deal with quite a few people recently about it, and it just really pisses me off. Oh, it just doesn't say I can't, so I can. It's like, no, the opposite interpretation is true. It doesn't say you can, so you can't, is how you should be taking things. Ugh, anyway. This is Corellian conflict stuff. Don't really care about that. Again, all out assault. Don't care about that. Most of this other Rebellion in the Rim stuff we don't care about, but we will look at what it's talking about, the new obstacles, dust fields. When an objective requires dust fields to be placed, may that player choose preferred shapes from multiple sets that include dust fields. No, again, this is people just trying to be dumb. When you add a pair of dust field tokens from one campaign expansion, the shapes of the pair of the dust field obstacles, you can't just choose both the same shape. It comes with two shapes. So you play with the two different shapes. You can't toss out one and play with two of the same shape. That's just, again, it's ridiculous that has to be clarified, but there are people like that out there that want to try to do that. All right, exogorphs. If an exogorph is placed so that it overlaps squadrons and it is impossible to place all of them touching the exogorph, where should the remaining squadrons be placed? It's the same ruling as a ship. They've already clarified this. It's the same thing. A squadron that cannot be placed touching the exogorph must be placed touching another squadron that is touching the exogorph. Squadrons can be placed overlapping the exogorph so that they are each touching it. I like the fact that they're saying they can be placed overlapping the exogorph, because otherwise touching is touching and is not overlapping. Those are two distinct separate things. So I'm glad that they are saying, yes, they can be placed overlapping the exogorph in the middle of it. So that makes more room. So it's nice we got clarification on that. Question: if an exogorph is moved so it's no longer touching an obstacle, such as Ezra Bridges' effect, are its attacks obstructed by the obstacle it was previously touching? Yes, that was another kind of, well, duh, but again, great that they are clarifying that. Purgles. How far must a player move a purgle when they move it? This depends on the objective that required the purgle to be placed. If the objective does not specify that the purgle moves towards another component or specify a minimum distance, the player moving the purgle can choose for it to remain in its current position. If the objective requires the purgle to move toward another component, the purgle's innate movement distance is 1 to 2, so it must be moved from its current position to at least the line that marks the end of the distance 1 band, or as close to that line as possible. That's something that if you watch my videos on, you see I already refer to that. Specifically, what they are referring to is the towards keyword. So if there's the towards keyword in effect, like for hyperspace migration, it means they have to move that distance to the best of their ability if possible. If they can't, then as we read further on down, it just remains in place. So yeah, otherwise, there's no... I'm glad we have that clarification, because it only refers to what I've already been saying for a while about them. When a ship overlaps a purgle after executing a maneuver at the speed different than that on the ship's speed dial, such as resolving the engine text effect, how much damage does the ship suffer? The ship suffers damage equal to the current speed on its speed dial. This is something that I already had told people that, like, this is how they're going to rule it, and people were like, but that's lame. I'm like, no, they don't want you to speed 4 under purgle, engine text, land on it again, and then and then you only somehow take 1 damage. To me, it was clear. Again, glad there's a clarification on it. It's always been they suffered the damage on its speed dial, but I'm glad that they clarified it to is the damage of the current speed. So good to know. So that means if you're speed 4, land on a Purgle, it's 4 damage, and if you engine text and land on that Purgle again, it's another 4 damage. So like, don't do that. Okay. Don't need to look at the rest of this stuff. Don't need to look at the rest of that stuff. Doesn't matter. Okay. Here's some new clarification for advanced gunnery. If the first player's objective ship is equipped with Impetus, which is the Raider title, or Ordnance pods, its hull zone cannot target the same squadron more than once during that ship's activation. Oh my god. So they messed the wording up on this, because they're saying that ship's activation, but what it says on the card is that it can no longer be attacked that round. Oh my god. Okay. So they probably meant to put, because they didn't know any better, it cannot be targeted more than once during that ship's, more than once that round. I don't know why they put that ship's activation. It's still helpful. It's not as helpful as it could have been, because it needs to say during that round, because that's what it says on the objective card. So contradiction there. I know what their intent was. I know what they meant. It just sucks because, again, there's going to be people that are going to look at just the FAQ and they're going to make assumptions, and that's not the case. But this is stuff that we already had been talking about recently, because this also will affect how salvo is done as well. This is the same kind of deal of how salvo is going to work too. You can't target the same thing you've already attacked. So that's good. I have that to back up how I'm going to be ruling salvo interactions. So that's great. I'm going to definitely be chopping that out and putting it into my CARM salvo section. Blockade run. At the end of the game, the second player can gain 1 victory token for each of the flotilla ships in the first player's deployment zone, even if all the second player's non-flotilla ships have been destroyed. That's a new one, and I'll be honest, I never thought about that, but it's just like Most Wanted. You know, if the ship's not technically destroyed, your opponent doesn't get the points for it. So that makes sense. That's great. Glad we got a clarification on that. See if anybody's chatted anything out here. Alive SWAE, wow. I want my kudos for the Darth Vader BT ruling. Oh, that question was around quite some time, Robert. That one's been around for quite some time. But yes, a lot of people kind of came to those same conclusions about how the Darth Vader boarding was going to work. It's just that we needed the official FFG to back that up, because otherwise the precedent they had set before was not that. But now we have that clarification, and I did submit that months and months ago. It sucks because all the questions I submitted, they only answered like the easy ones. They didn't answer the hard questions. Anyway, moving on. Rift Assault. When an attacker resolves the special rule effect to discard an objective token from the defender, they must change a die as specified to that player. I don't see how there was any confusion about this, but I'm glad they clarified it. I guess the fact that they're saying that you must change a die, so it's not optional. If you spend the objective token, you must change a die to something then. That's how I'm interpreting it. It's not optional. If you do this, you must then follow on and do the rest of the card. Okay, surprise attack. This is the big one. This is pretty much how I knew they're going to rule it. They kind of tweaked it a little bit to not be exactly the suggestion that I mean, when I pointed this out and sent it in, I gave them a couple different options. Obviously, you know, they're not going to take my word for everything, but like I said, when you are pointing out stuff to developers, don't just say, hey, this is broke, fix it. If you go to them and say, hey, this is broken, here's some options that I have found, like option A, B, or C, to try to address this. And obviously then that only helps them to kind of understand the point you're trying to make, but also when they're then trying to figure out how to fix it, if you've already done half the legwork for them, man, they're just so much appreciative of that. So anyway, surprise attack. During setup, the station can be placed beyond or overlapping the first player's deployment zone. That one was not in question. Distance 1 to 5 of the player's edge in the setup area was not the concern. While deploying fleets, if the first player's flagship is a huge ship, it must overlap the station and also touch that player's edge if able. If that flagship cannot meet both restrictions, it must be placed overlapping the station with its rear hull zone as close as possible to that player's edge. So I still like this ruling. I still think it's great. That's fine. My interpretation of originally when I said, "Hey guys, play this way until they figure out how they're going to fix it," was that if the second player threw an obstacle in the way of your Super Star Destroyer, you're already overlapping objectives anyway. You could just overlap that obstacle and just not have it affect your deployment. And I already had ruled that it had to be deploying backline, touching the player's edge. Some people were playing it to where it would deploy way out front, like it could just be anywhere on the station, which that's ridiculous. That's an SSD in the other player's freaking deployment area. So I mean, I nixed that right off the bat, tried to anyway. So I'm glad that FFG ruled it my way. And at least, if nothing else, they mostly ruled it to how I originally had ruled it. So I do need to update my surprise attack video. You mean some of these videos I'm going to have to update, or at least put little, posts into them. Capture the VIP. This one was an email clarification from years ago, finally in the FAQ, and that is what happens to a ship with the objective token. What happens if it flies off the table? They're just essentially saying, hey, it gets placed back in the play area. You just can't run away with the VIP and nobody gets it, So it goes back into the play area as closest to where the ship ended its movement at. So that's cool. That's something I already knew about, covered. Fleet ambush surprised me. This is an interesting one because this is again not how I had ruled it for in terms of the SSD. But this is saying how they want to play. Great, I have no problems with that. If a ship must be deployed into the ambush zone and it cannot fit without overlapping obstacles or extending beyond the ambush zone, the player must deploy that ship so that the ship fits as completely into the ambush zone as possible. What does that mean? You can deploy overlapping obstacles if there is literally no other way you can make the ship fit into the area. And this is only in regards really to the SSD, or if you're playing like 1200 point games, which again, these objectives aren't designed for 1200 points, but it's cool that we kind of now have this to say, okay, the SSD isn't completely, because before, like, if the SSD was your only physical ship and you have flotillas, and you couldn't put your SSD in the fleet ambush zone, we were ruling as judges that it just remains set aside, and then it blows up, and then you automatically lose. But again, glad we have that clarification, clears things up. Not any problem. Glad for that. Okay. Navigational hazards. So this navigational hazards, and they didn't do it for infested fields, but this sets the precedent for infested fields too. There are people in this game that were saying, oh, I can deploy my ships and squadrons overlapping the obstacles into deployment. I could claim the tokens before the game even starts. And like, freaking no, man. Oh, because overlapping is a defined game turn, okay? And so I'm glad that they have this here, because there was somebody who was really just pissing me off about a month ago with this question, and I kept telling them it doesn't work the way that you think. It's not taking literally the word overlapping. There's a game-defined term of overlapping. So this supports my viewpoint, thank God. If an obstacle that is overlapped by a ship or squadron is moved, that ship or squadron remains in its current position after the obstacle is moved. They're talking about, Ezra Bridger or the Graph Shift reroute. If an obstacle cannot be moved because it would overlap ships, squadrons, or other obstacles, the controlling player can leave it in place or rotate it. This is going to support stuff for like in Doom Station, other objectives where things are moving or otherwise moving obstacles, which is great because I already had somebody else trying to tell me that somehow the obstacle just disappears into nothingness, which again is stupid, but that's again, people were trying to argue that. And then finally, a ship or squadron only resolves an obstacle's effect when it overlaps that obstacle after moving. Thank you, God. Trying to argue that point with people was on the verge of just wanting me to pull the trigger on myself because people just don't know how to read the rulebook sometimes. Okay. Glad we have that because that sets the precedent for also how infested fields works. Great. Doom Station, if the obstacle cannot be moved towards a gravity rift at all because it would overlap things, that obstacle remains in its current position. The player moving the obstacle may still rotate it as long as it follows rules for moving obstacles and the rules for this objective. So great. Glad we have that clarification. This does not mean that you can pick up a ship that's overlapping it and rotate it and then put the ship back down. Okay, that's not what it means because it's still being overlapped. It's just saying if it can't move, but if it can rotate, you can do that. All right, but like honestly, guys, Armada is such a precision game where like, don't be that guy. It's like I want you to pick up all these squadrons in your ship so I can rotate this obstacle. Like, come on, guys. I mean, technically you can do that, I guess, if you want to, if you're able to, if it's not already being overlapped by stuff. But like, come on, man. Like, don't make this game harder for everyone. I already went over hyperspace migration before. Again, glad we have that clarification of it's only every other round you can score. And again, Purgles move after ships gain the tokens or discard the tokens. Great. Solo Corona. This is the one that oh my god. So the wording is right, but there are going to again be people who are going to argue stupid stuff. And I'm going to read it and I'm going to point out where the stupid is. The roll attack die step is resolved before this card's special rule effect is resolved. That we already knew. And there definitely were people who were still playing this objective wrong. But rules-wise, we already knew this. I'm glad they're spelling it out. If there are no die remaining in the attack pool after resolving this effect, the attacker can still resolve effects that add die during the resolve attack effect step. Again, we already knew this. If you threw a single die and then it rolled accuracy and you removed it, if you had something like Akbar, it's still a attack. You can still add dice into the attack. Okay, like that we already knew. People were just still not reading everything comprehensively. Glad we have a clarification. The only thing I don't like is this wording that they're using that says the attacker can still resolve effects that add dice during the resolve attack effect step. There is somebody out there who's going to now argue that the FAQ on this overrules RNG and that they can con-fire any color of die that they want into the attack pool if there's no color already in the attack pool. That's not how that works, but somebody is still going to do it. And it's going to tick me off. Oh, so remember, concentrate fire, the dial is you can only add a die of a color that's already in the attack pool. Okay? So because this die is removed before the resolve attack effect step, meaning that if you get to that step, even if you have a concentrate fire dial, there is no die color in the die pool for you to be able to throw a die in. Okay? So that still resolves as normal, but again, somebody is going to try to argue that, oh, it says it right there, I can still resolve an effect that adds die. My Confire can add a die. Why can't I add it? Well, because it still has that follow-on effect that you're choosing to ignore. You still have to choose a die of a color that's in the dice pool. You don't have any die in your die pool to choose to use it. Okay? So pretty much same rule as has always been. Just don't be dumb. That people are still going to try to argue that. I'm sure they are, but no, can't because you have no die in your die pool that concentrate fire into. I'm sure that makes sense to anybody watching or listening. Yes. Okay. IG-88 went the exact opposite way that I thought it was going to go, and I'm blown away by this because now it makes me question because they don't address this, and now I'm going to have to ask, so are squadron keywords card effects then? Because what this is saying is that IG-88 has to attack squadrons that have escort before it can attack other squadrons. So even though you choose your designated attack against, like, say there's Shara Bay and Wedge Antilles next to each other, even though you're saying I'm attacking Shara Bay, I now triggered escort, now I have to attack Wedge, but now I can also attack Wedge. That's going to lead to a lot of confusing game moments and just lots of shenaniganry of like, oh no, when I made this attack, it was for this attack against that squadron, and then this attack was for that, and then now I'm actually doing this attack against this guy, but not against that guy. Just like, holy tracking mindfuck with that. Why didn't they just say it overrode escort and just kept things simple? because now there's people out there that are going to try to manipulate their attack sequence against squadrons, and it's just they're going to confuse their opponents, and some people I know are going to do this intentionally to try to see if they can trip them up so that they can benefit from it, which is exactly what this ruling can do. I just hate it. Ugh. So, alright, let's read the whole thing. When resolving IG-88B's ability, IG-88 can perform one attack against each enemy squadron at distance 1. While IG-88B is engaged with one or more escort squadrons, IG-88B must declare them as targets first and can attack each escort squadron once. Then, if one or more escort squadrons remain engaged, IG-88B must stop performing attacks. Okay, so I should have just read that before I blathered on. So if there's any escorts and you don't kill the escorts, then your attacks are over. You cannot attack anything else. This makes IG-88B worthless. He is now worthless, because before the whole point was that these rebels in their escort big squad balls would just clump up, and you couldn't break it. It's so hard to break a Biggs ball. And this card was supposed to change that, and now they're nerfing the thing that they designed to break the... God, guys. And again, it still doesn't answer the question, are squadron keywords card effects, or are they an RNG wording? It doesn't answer that, so now I have to ask. And they just made IG-88B freaking worse. So I was taking IG-88B in my list because I loved him. Now there's no reason to ever bring him. Might as well just only bring the regular IG-88B. There's no point, or the regular IG-88. There's no more point to bring IG-88B. IG-88B is freaking worthless. That is so annoying. I mean, you could still potentially find setups where he's obstructed on like an obstacle and can pew out because engagement won't matter then against escort. It's still just... It just sucks, guys. I don't like how they ruled this card. And it's not the worst thing I'm upset about, because we're going to get the Beck. Oh man, we're going to get the Beck. I'm not happy with how they ruled Beck. Whisper. When Whisper performs a counterattack from an effect such as Dengar, that attack must be resolved before Whisper resolves their effect to move after defending. I don't think that mattered either way, but I'm glad that they clarified that. It's important to have clarifications for interactions like that. Aspiration. I was completely blown away by how they ruled this card, because I had ruled that even if the card was removed, the things remained in effect. So this is what they've decided. After this card is discarded by an effect such as Darth Vader, and when they say Darth Vader, they didn't specify which Darth Vader. Come on, guys. Okay, so what they mean is the Darth Vader boarding team. Ugh, just put that in there. Because Darth Vader, which Darth Vader? The commander? The squadron? The boarding team? The officer? Nobody knows. Just make up whatever you want. Okay, so after this card is discarded by effects such as Darth Vader, the boarding team, shields exceeding a whole zone's maximum shield value are immediately lost. Okay. That's fine. I'm fine with this ruling because I ruled it the other way and that the shields remained. But that's fine. This is fine. I'm fine with this ruling. This also sets the precedent for auxiliary shield teams, because I had that same question about auxiliary shield teams, and if boarding Vader ripped that off, what happened to the excess shields? The excess shields, based on this precedent, are also lost from auxiliary shield teams. So now we have that. That answers two questions in one. So aspiration, auxiliary shield teams, if it's removed, the excess shields immediately lost. Boom, done. Alright, getting into Bail Organa. This is how I always knew they were going to rule the card. We just didn't have a precedent or a standard until they finally have said this, because the precedent was for the other direction. So I'm glad we have this clarified. If this card is discarded by an effect such as Darth Vader boarding team, it is no longer active in the game. Thank goodness, okay? I'm glad it took you guys 2 years to give us that answer. And I'm glad we finally have it, because now it sets additional precedents for other things. Okay, so I knew they were always going to rule it that way. Glad they finally came out and said it. So You know, if it's gone, it's gone. You don't get to resolve the rest of that card's effect. Here's an interesting one. Chart Officer. If a ship with this card equipped overlaps more than one obstacle, it can ignore the effects of each obstacle. If the ship chooses to ignore the effects of one obstacle that it overlaps, it must ignore the effects of all obstacles it overlaps. So it's kind of contradicting the card, because the card says if you overlap an obstacle as an A, as in singular, that's fine. They're saying that if you overlap multiples, you do one. If you do one, you do all of them. There's no pick and choose. If you do one, you do all of them. Okay, I'm fine with that. It resolves people nitpicking and dragging things out. Chart Officer is still a worthless card, but it sets other precedents for other things that I had questions on. That just only helps me out with other things. All right, Defiance. When Defiance resolves its effect, the die is added during the resolve attack effects step. It can be of any color regardless of the attack range. Did anyone have any question about that? It's just kind of funny. It's like the card already kind of self-explains it, but I guess somebody still wasn't sure about how Defiance worked. Again, glad for clarification. Clarification is good. Cham Syndulla. This card effect allows the equipped ship to reveal and change the enemy ship's dials. The enemy ship's owner can set the dials to the command chosen by the ship, resolving Cham Syndulla if they do not want their opponent to handle those dials. So, but your opponent can still see what those dials were before they're changed. Because again, that goes back up to what we read before about the FAQ. It's just specifically saying, hey, I don't want you to touch my stuff because it's my stuff, but I can show you, and I can change the dials and then show you to make sure that I did what you wanted. Commander Beck, this is the clarification I am most upset about, because this takes this. If you watch my Commander Beck video, you already knew how upset I was about the wording of this card, specifically with the word as if. Because how they have treated the wording as if before in the past, they have completely reversed with this. It is completely a 180 turnaround from every other precedent we have with as if. They need to define as if, because there's two separate interpretations for as if now. I don't know which one is right anymore. I don't know up from down or sideways or backwards or what this even means anymore, because what they're saying now, when a ship with this card equipped resolves this effect, it is treated as if it had spent a command token of the chosen type. That ship can also spend a command dial of the chosen type and combine it with this effect, which means it can Piet. You can Piet that phantom token, and it means you can wolf a phantom token. It means, oh my gosh, my brain is breaking from, they ruled it the exact opposite way of what I thought how this card works. And since they did that, what else does that mean? It means for Pursuant, you can spend a squad token with Pursuant, even though that's not what the card says. What else does it mean? It means that you can spend it to treat it as effect for... Oh, my brain is breaking from the possibilities of where... Why didn't they just say that the card does that? Because what they just did with this clarification, all the text on the card that Beck is, they essentially just tossed out and just replaced it with this. Like, why didn't the card just say that to start with? So I didn't have to have all this as if bullcrap. I hate as if. I hate it with a passion. Just tell me what the card does. Don't say as if this or maybe that or maybe sometimes this or maybe sometimes that. Just tell me what the card does. God, I hate Beck. Now I have to reshoot that whole stupid video. Ugh, alright. Well, again, now we have an answer. I hate it. I hate Beck's answer because it changes. For you people who aren't rules people, it changes nothing for you, but how it sets precedent for like 7 other rulings I can think of off the top of my head. It changes that completely. And now I have to figure out what that means now for rules. Not happy with it. Not happy with it at all. Alright, moving on. Chimera. A fleet command. Is that fleet command? What symbol is that? That must be fleet command. Yep, a fleet command card equipped to the ship using Chimera's effect is not discarded if Chimera is discarded by effects such as Darth Vader. This one, again, we already knew the answer to essentially, or what we interpreted as. That's a question I submitted. They are just verifying that. If you get rid of Chimera, the other card that was equipped along with this is not also immediately discarded. That's going to be Minister Tua's thing, too, as we get down here. There's some Kremlin Conflict, Rebellion to Rim stuff in there. Doesn't matter. Not going to go over that. Engine text. This ship cannot use its navigational command effect to increase yaw values during this maneuver. So again, it's just clarifying what we already all knew, but again, some people were trying to say the opposite of because they don't read rules. They're trying to say, oh, I have a navigation dial. I can use a yaw, and I can put that yaw in my engine tech yaw. No. No, you can't, because you have to resolve that command. The command isn't resolved until the end of the maneuver. And it's for that. Oh my gosh. Okay. So, yes. Engine text is after a ship executes maneuvers when you can exhaust it. But that can only be resolved if you had spent a navigation command, which can only be resolved for that first maneuver only. Because engine text is resolving its whole other second separate window of determined course step, not in relation to the first determined course step. Own thing. Separate things. People are trying to say it was one continuous effect and you could do it continuously. Again, glad it's saying that's not the case. They're separate. You can't use the navigation dial yaw on the second move. Okay, that's good. Glad that's settled, done and dusted. Executor. This ship can only combine one command dial with one matching command token when it resolves a command. This ship cannot resolve the same command more than once during its activation. Again, this is stuff we already knew, but people were trying to bullshit their way through the rules because, again, it doesn't say I can't, so I can. Oh, God, I hate that attitude that's creeping into Armada. I hate it. So, yes, the rules only work the way that the rules work. You can only ever spend a dial or a token or a dial and token together. There's no dial and token 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 and token. That's not how this game works. Here's something I'm really glad to see. Finally, in G8 experimental projector, when a ship's speed is temporarily reduced, that ship's speed dial is not changed. When this effect is resolved on an enemy ship and that ship changes its speed dial during the determined course step, as with such as a navigation command or some other effect, the ship's speed is temporarily reduced by 1 from the current speed on its dial. This includes a ship that increases its speed to the maximum speed on speed chart. Again, people were trying to make this Precito weird crazy thing of my ship can only go speed 3, but it's reduced by the projectors to speed 2. So I'm going to make it go speed 4, even though it can't go speed 4, and I can out-navigate the reduction to still go speed 3. And it's just like head-poundingly dumb that some people were trying to argue that. And they never were right, but they kept making those assumptions anyway. So I'm glad it's finally spelled out, crystal clear, that no, you cannot do these things. And this also helps reinforce other rulings that I've been making about Gravity Rift, with this card effect about what is a speed and what is a speed dial. So that's great. I'm glad we have that. All right, moving on. Grand Admiral Thrawn. Holy crap. So if you watched my Grand Admiral Thrawn video, I know it's a half-hour long, or 45 minutes long, or however long it is. I already covered all of this. Like, this was already explained over a year ago. But I'm glad that they're clarifying it, because again, doesn't say I can't, so I can attitude is becoming prevalent in this game, so I'm glad that they're spelling this all out. When a friendly ship gains a command dial as part of Grand Admiral Thrawn's effect, that ship can spend that dial to gain a matching command token or spend it at an appropriate time to resolve that command, but the ship cannot resolve the same command more than once during its activation. When a huge ship reveals its command dial, it only gains command token matching the dial it revealed. It does not gain an additional token matching the command dial gained from Grand Admiral Thrawn's effect, because again, reveal from the ship, gained is from Thrawn. Not the same thing. A ship cannot discard a dial it gains from Grand Admiral Thrawn's effect to discard raid tokens assigned to itself. Again, that already was crystal clear, but people were being dumb and wanted to interpret how they wanted to interpret. Grand Admiral Thrawn's effect cannot be resolved to place face-down command dials on this card if the ship is equipped to is set aside before fleets are deployed, such as by hyperspace assault setup effect. That one we already knew, but again, people were wanting to break rules and be dumb anyway. As we see here with Price, same thing we saw in Bale. If Price is discarded, its effect is no longer active in the game. Great. That one we already, we had figured that was how it was going to go, but the precedent that was set by other cards of discard, we didn't know until they made up their minds. Glad they made up their minds. Happy that that card is discarded when it's discarded and not active anymore. All right, Impetus. If the ship is equipped with gunnery team, a hull zone of the ship cannot target the same squadron more than once during the ship's activation. Again, this is kind of, well, duh stuff we already knew. It's just more the fact that it's pointing out so it helps people's logic for understanding order of importance with how upgrade cards work. So again, gunnery teams already had that stipulation of you cannot target the same squadron already. That still carries over for Impetus's ability. Some people were using gunnery teams to hit a squadron and then using Impetus to hit that squadron again, which I don't know why you take gunnery teams on that ship anyway. I'm glad it's clarified because, again, that only sets precedent for other effects and cards and salvo and everything else that I'll be putting into the card. Link turbo laser towers. I'll be honest, guys, they really fucked up the wording on this clarification because now people are I've already have seen 5 different people automatically make the assumption, oh, I can resolve this card during any squadron attack I want now. That's what it says. No, that is not what it says. It is simply clarifying that it can be during any of the attacks that you make as long as it's the first squadron that you're attacking in that attack. It didn't change the card at all. They just did a really crappy job clarifying it. The ship with this card equipped can resolve this effect during any of its anti-squadron attacks, but can only resolve it once during its activation. If the ship resolves this effect during an additional attack granted by another effect, such as Ordnance Pod upgrade card, it cannot declare additional squadron attacks during that attack. Again, you can still only resolve this against the first squadron you attack. It's just, oh my gosh, it's just, the wording is just so poor. This effect during any of its anti-squadron attack, no, you can only still do it on the first squadron you attack in an attack. It's just using really bad wording for it. So somebody is going to say that this allows them to choose any squadron they want in the middle of their attack. Like, oh, this is the one I'm going to choose, LTT. No, it can only ever be the first squadron you attack that you LTT. Okay, that does not change. That part of the card is still there. That is not changed at all. It's just saying that when you're making attacks, it doesn't have to be the first attack you do. It can be the second attack that ship makes, or Ordnance Pod attack. Okay, so yeah, Minister Tua, again, if she's discarded by Darth Vader, the equipped card remains. It doesn't go anywhere. Again, we already knew that, but some people were trying to say, nope, both cards go, and that's not how that works. So I'm glad, again, clarification is good. Instigator, here's one that we finally get one after years of people debating with me about it and me being like, no, you're wrong, and here's why, and no, you're wrong, and here's why. Glad we have the clarification. Squadrons at distance 1 of the ship that are also engaged by Valen Rudor can attack this ship if they are not engaged by squadrons other than Valen Rudor. So again, glad we got that clarification. I'm right. Thank you, me, for being right. And other people who already pointed that out, not just me, Droids, Nida, Ian Cross, like, this was kind of like, well, duh. Like, we've known this forever. Okay. Ordnance Pods. If a ship is equipped with both this card and gunnery team, a hull zone of that ship cannot target the same squadron more than once during the ship's activation. Again, same thing as Impetus. They're just making clarifications, clearly and neatly spelling things out that people, if they just would read the cards, would already know. They're just making it clearer so people stop misinterpreting things. Profundity. This is something we already had an email answer to long ago, 2.5 years ago. Glad they're finally putting it in the FAQ. When the ship set aside using this effect is deployed, it can overlap squadrons. If it does, place the squadrons as if the deployed ship had overlapped them while executing the maneuver. So we already knew that from a long time ago. Slicer Tools. This card's effect allows the equipped ship to reveal and change the enemy ship's dial. The enemy ship's owner can set its dial to the command chosen by the ship, resolving Slicer Tools if they do not want their opponent to handle that dial. Again, they're just specifying that you can see, what your opponent had set a command to before you then set a new command. That was already something you could do, but a lot of people didn't realize or know or understand that. Strategic Advisor, glad we got a clarification for this. This is not one that we needed, but again, some people were still confused about. This card's effect can only resolve if the ship it is equipped to is unactivated and could activate this turn. Great. Targeting Scramblers, again, something we already knew. Glad it's been clarified. Multiple copies of this card can each resolve their effect during the same attack. Each card's effect must be resolved separately. We already knew that. Great clarification for it. And finally, Yavaris. Now, some people are like, oh my gosh, another Yavaris nerf. No, it's the same nerf. If you look at fighter coordination teams, they just forgot that when they spelled that out for fighter coordination teams, they needed to spell it out for Yavaris' card too. They're just finally getting around to it. It's not a new nerf. It's the same nerf. Nothing changed. Yavaris still works the same way. A squadron that attacks twice when activated by Yavaris cannot resolve another effect to move during Yavaris' activation. So people were still trying to find ways to move squadrons even though you've done it. So I'm glad, again, they figured that out. Alright, that's the FAQ. Oh my gosh, that is the thing. I'm happy with 90% of the changes. I am very unhappy with how they ruled Beck. I'm very unhappy with, what was the other card? I'm just most unhappy about Beck. I'm actually kind of really upset with Beck. Really upset with Beck, and that slight nitpick with Raid. Those are really my two biggest things. I don't think there's anything else. Scrolling back through. Nah, most everything else pretty much went exactly how I knew. Oh, IG-88B. So yeah, Beck, really upset about. IG-88B, pretty upset about. And then the Raid thing, I'm frustrated that they just can't be clear in their wording on what they want stuff to mean. So yeah, those are my big three. And I'm going to have questions, and I'm going to have to submit more and more questions. But hey, FAQ a month before Worlds is great. It's better than a week and a half before Worlds. So do you guys have any questions about stuff here while you've got me? Wedge Antilles, so you can PF with Beck now. Technically, yes, you can PF with Beck now. I'm not happy about that. Not because I didn't want that interaction in the game. It's the precedent that is setting with everything else that has the words as if and so many other things that I now have to try to sit and debate and debate and debate and debate and debate and how it can potentially break other stuff. But yes, you can PF with Beck now. How much of these rulings, like engine techs, we already knew the answer to, but they're now just putting the FAQ just to it being 2+ years since the last fact? I'd say about half of what you just read in the FAQ, we already knew about. Like, because especially in the CARM, if you went in the CARM, look stuff up, you would see that I would have sections that says, this is an email clarification, this is a rule in effect. And a lot of people, obviously still didn't know about it because they didn't put it in the FAQ. So yeah, half the stuff that you just read in the FAQ, the community, the broader community has known for 2.5 years. What's my opinion on the Starhawk expansion? I think the Starhawk is great. It is not going to fit in most people's fleets or work the way they want it to work. I think it has a specific role. Look at how the Victory has been handled for the Imperials for so long. If you know how to drive a Victory, you're going to do great with the Starhawk. If you are someone who absolutely shunned the Victory and never gave it a chance of play, you're going to suffer playing the Starhawk because you have no idea how to run a Speed 2 ship. So I think there's a lot of awesome cards in the Starhawk expansion. I think the Starhawk itself is great, but you really need to have a game plan for how you plan to engage your enemy with the Starhawk if they want to run away from you. And it's the same problem the SSD kind of has, but at least the SSD is so big that it can eventually catch up to stuff. With the Starhawk, you're going to be doing a lot more middle deployments with the Starhawk, and if you're second player, you really need to leverage your objectives to force your opponent to come fight you. If you're first player, again, you need to have plans for objectives for how you plan to get to somebody and fight them or encourage them to come fight you. Otherwise, if they want to run away, they are going to outrun you and run away from you. Not much you can do about it. So that just comes back to fleet composition, fleet building, deployment plan, deployment strategy, and then how deployment actually goes. I think the Starhawk is fantastic. I love it. Do you feel the IG reword is a big nerf? Technically, they didn't reword IG; they just clarified his effect. I think it is a huge nerf. I hate it. I hate how they ruled IG-88. I really do. I just think it just makes him absolutely worthless. It goes counterintuitive to what his ability is. I just hate it. Because now, again, as I mentioned before earlier in the video, it throws into question, are squadron keywords card effects, or are they written RNG? It didn't answer that question at all. So I just don't know how. I have to ask to clarify that even more now. I just hate how they worded IG-88. I really do. I hate how that rule went. The Starhawk is super hard to face in Rebellion in the Rim. I mean, if somebody's bringing the Starhawk in Rebellion in the Rim, just kind of look at him and be like, really, dude? Really? Like, you're gonna be that guy? Because, man, I've had so much fun just running small ships. I mean, for the first time ever, I'm really playing an assault frigate. I'm playing Rebels. And, man, I'm just having a lot of fun with that. I love playing small and medium ships. Get this large ship crap out of here, you know. Play to have fun, not to win. Do you think the tractor beam it has will help keep the enemy nearby and keep them from running? Um, See, I think that you can use that tractor beam offensively and defensively. Some people are like, well, I want to stop stuff from running away. Well, no, no, no. You need to think about it as an engagement tool. If they're at speed 4, drop them to match your speed. It fucks up their approach on your ship. Okay? Don't let them do whatever they want. Drop their speed before they even come at you. It slows them down, and then, yeah, now they can't get anywhere. Or if they are running away, if you have other ships or other capabilities, yes, you can drop your speed to try to drop their speed. But almost always, guys, if you're playing a Starhawk, you're going to be out activated. So the tractor beams, there's a lot of risk versus reward there, and it takes. You're just going to have to be really careful of how you play with it to get what you want, and that just takes so much practice, guys. It's not just stick it in your list and just tractor beam whatever you want. You got to have a plan. Again, comes back to what I was saying before about deployment strategy. Are you first player? Are you second player? Is somebody trying to run away from you? Is somebody trying to outpace you so that they can zip in? You know, with an engine tech's demolisher or something like that. Like I think tractor beams. A lot of people are going to discard or discount as not being that great, but then somebody's going to figure out a way to make that work, and we will all be ruining the day. Well, thank you, Wedge. Yes, I try very hard with my videos to make sure I'm being as accurate as possible. What ship has shaken up the meta more, Starhawk or Onager? Onager, hands down. All you are going to see at Worlds is just table after table after table after table of Onagers. That's all you're going to see. There's so many Onagers. Because Onagers are they're too good, guys. I'm not one to say that something is broken, overpowered, but Onager is really strong, and it's just really strong. It can kill almost anything before it gets to it. Yeah, I mean, it kind of helps encourages MSU to come back, but now we kind of get into this rock, paper, scissors things of, okay, well, I brought heavy squadrons and a large ship, which beats MSU, but MSU beats Onager, but Onager beats everything else, and now it's just the circle of that, and I don't like that. I don't like that at all. Don't like. I think the misstep that they made with the Onager was allowing it to make an ignition attack at long range to more long range. I don't like it because it pretty much can reach all the way across the table and it doesn't have to do anything. And I don't think that's fair, and I don't think that is I think it's a negative play experience. I don't like it. I don't like that at all because I've had one of my large ships killed in 2 shots because somebody rolled an accuracy and a bunch of doubles from reds and blacks, and oh, your large ship doesn't have ECMs? Oh, it blew up instantly. Like, that is not a great feeling at the start of the game to have, especially if you're playing new players. They're going to want to dip out. Like, oh, my shit all blew up before I did anything. Why am I even playing this game? Might as well go home. Yeah, I'm not excited about that. And maybe they'll just change the keywords so that the long range drops to medium and the medium drops to close. I think that's fine. I think that's how it should have been. because this whole crap with Cataclysm and whatever the one that you can place a token at long, that's just too much, guys. That's just too much. That's just can't get away from it. Just put IG-88 being obstruction and laugh at escort. I mean, Adam, you definitely can do that. I'm not saying that you can't make plans to accomplish this. It just sucks because I liked keeping 88B in reserve and then jumping him in as my last squadron activation in the middle of the furball. And then my opponent then has to make the decision. Do I go after this crappy IG-88B so it doesn't Death Blossom and kill all my stuff? Or do I go after other important targets? Now he doesn't have to care anymore. He's like, oh, I don't care. I've got escort. You know, I just don't like that. I don't like how they put that restriction on IG-88B. Do you think it's pressure from Disney that FFG seems like they don't want to pull more ships from Legends? They kind of offhandedly mentioned it in the last live stream, like they really want to see the Dreadnought. Yeah. I mean, Disney owns the license, guys. FFG has no. We were lucky. So FFG for the Starhawk, FFG actually approached Disney and said, "Hey, we want to make an expansion. You have the Starhawk in your novels. These novels have been out for years. There's no pictures of it. There's no depiction of it. We would like to take this and put it in our game and get a model and pictures out there. What do you guys think? We really think it would help sell the product, but also help with other marketing for you guys." And it was a lot of him and hawing. I'm shortening this. It was a lot of him and hawing from I heard, but Disney finally said, you know what? This sounds like a great idea. Yeah, you guys can go ahead start developing the Starhawk. We'll work on getting the images for you. And that's how that came about. Because before Disney had no images, they had no idea. I mean, they had like their rough drafts and stuff, but like nobody knew what the Starhawk looked like until FFG approached Disney and said, "We want to do the Starhawk. What do you got?" So that's really cool. But otherwise, they still can't do that without Disney's approval. If Disney had said no, do something else, we would have something else. And that would and it still requires FFG going to Disney and saying, "Hey, these are some ship ideas that we want to do. What do you approve?" And the mouse will look at them like, "We approve one of your 7 options." Like, okay, well, then what other ships do we have left to do? I'm glad we're getting Clone Wars because there's more expansion we can do in the Clone Wars. But where do we really go after that? I mean, Disney's got to come up with some idea of what they want us to use because we're kind of out of canon source material. I think we'll eventually see a Dreadnought. I do. I really do. I don't think we'll see it anytime soon. Just like with a lot of other stuff I would like to see. But that just comes back to Disney is in control and FFG can only dance to Disney's tune. Do you feel like the Onager was built to take out carriers like Quasars and Yavaris? Yeah. Yep. Onager specifically is meant to kill the turtle game by introducing a ship that wants the turtle. Logic. The logic. Yeah, we'll kill the fortress list by having another fortress list kill that fortress list. Yeah! Hi. Why do you think that's the right way to approach this? Kill the fortress with more fortress. Makes sense. But yes, it's the punish players who are one. I mean, 2-ship is done and dusted, guys. With Onagers in the playfield, 2-ship is gone. You won't see 2-ship anymore because it just gets out activated and it's just gonna get lasered to death. I mean, you definitely will still some people trying to play it. I'm sure. It's just not gonna be really as good because the Onager will just blast away at it and then it kills your ship. Yeah, you won't see like 1-ship larges. You won't see like just 2 ships on a table. Unless it's 2-ship flotillas is fine, but you won't just see just 2 ships just because Onager will just blow it away. And I made a prediction with some of the Discord guys. I've predicted you won't see any SSDs at Worlds. I mean, maybe at the last chance qualifier, but no serious competitor is going to bring SSD to day 1, day 2. They won't. They can't. You're going to get Onagered to death, man. They just don't see it. Have you ever looked at the DA shipyard chip cards? If you have, what are your thoughts on their balance? I don't look at third-party stuff, guys. I will absolutely admire and want third-party ship models. I don't gnat flying around my room. I don't look at ship cards because people make the craziest things and call it balanced. So no, I don't look at any of that stuff because 99% of the time I look at it and I laugh and just laugh because they don't know how to balance things. 15 red dice at the side, that seems balanced. What? No. uh, will you make a video of how you build out a Starhawk or Onager? I mean, the issue just comes down to time. Like, I would love to do more just talk videos. Like, I used to, like last year I did a few of them where I sit down and yeah, I go over builds and things like that. It's just time, guys. I work a lot. Uh, I mean, I barely can make videos like every 2 to 3 days. Um, but that's something I will absolutely consider because I want to keep my channel relevant moving forward. Eventually, when I do cover all the cards, I'll need to generate additional content. So, yes and no, Cameron. At some point, I will get into more videos like how you said how to do builds. And also, I want to do more videos of me like, playing the game, like on Vassal. Um, like how I used to. It's just I'm busy. Work is busy, life is busy. I don't know. The new Imp ship 2 ship is Onager and ISD with fighters. Yeah, Adam, I ran that in my Vassal tournament. I dropped out just because I just was running out of time. I had to focus and get ready for Worlds. I just didn't have time to play. But yeah, I had a Kuat Boarding Trooper Avenger that is like sitting as a bulldog. Like if you come after my Onager, my Boarding Trooper Avenger is going to come rip your face off. And then yeah, I got my Onager sitting back, pewing and powering back. There's another variant where it's Onager and a Quasar Fire with a crap ton of squadrons with like Salone, or yeah, Salone and Ramdami, and like that's stupid powerful too. Because all it is encouraging is these fortresses lists that nobody likes playing against. Everybody hates them, but now it's just more encouraging that, and now it's going to be a game of does my fortress list out fortress your fortress list, and it's ridiculous and it's dumb. I hate it. I don't like that style of play in Armada because the game already takes so long to play, and it's just encouraging people to not play the game. So you just spent 2 hours playing a game of nothing, and I hate it. Why? Don't waste my time. Don't waste my time with 2 hours to kill one squadron and then the game's over. Like I don't want to encourage that style of play. I'm sorry, that's my personal opinion. I hate that style of play. I'm an aggressive player. I like getting in there. I like rolling dice. I like seeing stuff blow up. Like that's how I think Star Wars is. It's not like everyone sits in a corner and shoots a laser at each other and then somebody wins doing 2 hours of that. I just think it's really dumb. I feel you can easily make a heavy squad with an Onager, which could possibly be the best worst of both worlds. Yeah, Scott, I think you said what I was mentioning, but yeah, I think that is going to be the new hotness is a Quasar Fire Onager or a Quasar Fire ISD with a crap ton of squadrons and just get wrecked. How do you beat it? Nobody's figured it out yet. I mean, some people have, but it's just like the old Akbar fish farms. Like, what the freak do you do, man? If you sit still, you die or lose, and if you go after them, you die or lose, and like, it's just so frustrating, and I hate that style of gameplay. If you have limited ship inventory, like I only own 2 Vics of Raider and Archidins, is there any good way to be thinking when building lists with the prevalence of Onagers? Ooh, man. Competitively, you are kind of wrecked, man. I will be honest with you. You're not going to win anything with 2 Vics of Raider and an Archidins. You really need an ISD. Need at least a Squadron pack. Squadron 1 pack, a Squadron 2 pack. You need a Rogue and Villains pack. I mean, I know that's like hundreds and hundreds of dollars to get into this game, but like if you want to be competitive, you need at least an ISD for Imperials. You just need the cards that are in there. You need an ISD. Um, yeah, ISD and Chimera. I mean, it's essentially you need 2 Star Destroyers. Yeah, man. I'm sorry. Imperials, their small ships just kind of suck. I mean, Archidins have some usability. Raiders are still just garbage. Um, You need flotillas if you want to be competitive. I mean, you don't need flotillas. There are experienced players who will run without them, but if you're just starting out competitively, you're going to need at least 2 flotillas just so you can get a grasp of activation and deployment. Quasar Fire, I mean, just because Quasar Fire is cheap and it just throws a million squadrons and it's good. But ultimately, you need an ISD. That's what I would focus on, is just get an ISD, because that is 90% of Imperial S. Does it have an ISD? Yes, you're good. Does it not have an ISD? Then you really know what you're doing, or you're flying something janky. Or you could get an Onager, I guess, and not get the ISD. But there's a lot of good cards in the ISD that you need. Let's see here. But otherwise, to answer your question, other than ignoring your question, sorry, I'm not like trying to put you down or anything. It's just your options are just really limited. Because I don't know what rebel ships you have, but if you're going to be playing a raider, like a Raider 2 with heavy ion placements with decaps is good, but you need decaps from Quasar Fire or Hammerheads. You need the HIE from either Chimera or the MC-75. Arcadins and slave turrets, you can't go wrong. I mean, that's a good thing. Victories, again, you need decaps if you're running a Vic 2. If you got a Vic 1, you need H9s. Warlord is good on a Vic 1. You need Rebellion the Rim, so you can get Harrow for your Vic 1. The Vic 2 doesn't really need Harrow, but a Vic 1 with Harrow is really good. Yeah, man, it's just your options are super limited till you pick up some more expansions. Cameron, cool. Like to see how you would do if it's been a few other how you do it. I've seen a few others, but it seems to be 2 specific ways of either nearly empty or just some rerolls like leading shots or all out points tank with the gate. It really depends on the list you're going for, man. Gosh, what can I equate it to? I'm not sure if you're familiar with what Dumpster Fire is. Schmitty's list that keeps winning. It won Gen Con. It's won or placed very highly in primes or won some primes. What that list is essentially, you look at it and you're like, it's a bunch of garbage, but it's actually like it's just a well optimized list. And that, like, his Liberty only has like 2 upgrade cards on it, but what he's put on there is optimizing what he wants it to do. So you can run light on cards, upgrade cards for ships, because a lot of people, myself included, I'm guilty of this, is you want a Christmas tree, or put all the upgrade cards on the ships and just beef them out to be super great, which is kind of what you have to do with ISDs, to be honest, because that's how they're built. They're a centerpiece of your fleet. But you could run light. I mean, I see a lot of ISDs not run turbo lasers. You don't have to run turbo lasers on ISDs. They're definitely nice, but you don't have to have them. Some ISDs may not take gunnery teams, but again, you got so much points that it's worth 2 ships. You want to shoot like 2 ships. But generally, you see leading shots a lot because it's a staple. You really want to have rerolls. Rerolls and dice fixing are king in this game. Because blank dice is no damage, and no damage means you're not killing your opponent. You really want to have the ability to kill your opponent before he kills you. And a gate kind of focuses on that, since again that's a ship a gate's on. You really want to tank or kit it out. That's kind of the focus for that. Again, there's so much variety that you can go in. Again, it just comes down to your play style, what you want to accomplish, and it comes down to a line of thinking that if you are bringing a large ship, you want that large ship to throw out such a haymaker that it's just going to absolutely crush no matter what's in front of it, and then keep going. Because if it can't absolutely crush what's in front of it, it's going to get stuck and it's going to die. So that's why you kind of see that mentality, and again, the opposite mentality of, I know this piece is going to die. I don't want to put a lot of upgrade cards on it because it's sacrificial. I'm losing a pawn to kill a king. Adam Davis, I flew a 3-ship MSU with fighters last week on Always Be Navigating versus Jamie, and I think it's a good answer versus Fortress's list, 4-ship. I agree. Like I said earlier, that I think MSU will make a slight comeback. A lot of people are saying, oh, MSU is dead because Super Star Destroyer, and it was dead because of the Super Star Destroyer. But now that the Super Star Destroyer is going to get completely dunked on by the Onager, the drop of Super Star Destroyer is going to encourage people to bring back MSU. For Rebels, not Imperials. Imperials are still kind of screwed because the Raider sucks. But Imperials have got, CR90s, they got Hammerheads, they got MC30s. They got so many options for small ships. So I think Rebel MSU will see a resurgence, especially with Kraken, because Kraken is still good. He's boring, but he's still pretty decent. Or Mothma. So yeah, I definitely think you'll see a resurgence because the small ships can sideways deploy and completely just outrun the Onager. If somehow an Onager gets to shoot a small ship, it's because that player is letting you shoot it, or they made a deployment error, or they just got out deployed, which is fine because again, it's still extreme range. It's still hard for the Onager to peg damage in, or harder, I should say. I think you'll see a resurgence of MSU, and MSU is going to be kind of a somewhat counter to Onager Fortress lists. The thing is that there's going to be so many Onager Fortress lists that are just going to climb to the top anyway, because if you, as MSU, run into heavy squadrons like Salone or Thrawn or Riken, you're going to get murdered, and that keeps you down. So that's just kind of circle of life thing going on, where I still think Onager Fortress lists are going to be super strong, and that the other two options, or a couple other options you have, are not. They're going to be killing each other to not kill enough of those lists to keep them down. Scott Jones, how long do you think it will take for an Onager Quasar Onager ISD counter to eventually come out? They're already coming out, as mentioned by Adam. MSU kind of beats them. There are people who are coming up with strategies. I don't want to talk about their strategies because they're trying to get ready for Worlds, and I don't want to give away their strategies on live stream for people who are going to bring lists like that. But I just will say that there are people who are developing counters. There are ways to counter it. You need to be expert level play, and you got to really know your ranges, like where things range out to, where when a ship deploys, where is its range, what speed, what can it do. You got to be planning like 15 moves in advance from deployment. That's when people think of like these expert level players, they're not winning in turn 5 because they're winning in turn 5. They're winning in turn 5 because they set up their win to win in turn 5 at deployment. At deployment, they've made that determination of, I'm going to win in turn 5, and this is how I'm going to do it. That's where you clearly see the separation of like Nathan Coda and Christopher, the one, he's from Germany, won Worlds. Like that's where you see like that level of play compared to me, where like I can plan like a couple of turns ahead or mostly get stuff right, but I'm not like precise perfect level of play that these guys are at. So do you think the Armada card packs are likely to come out before Clone Wars? No, you will not. It's FFG has said that they want to do it. They want to do card packs. They've said that. But to have that come out before Clone Worlds, I really doubt that, because I think that if they're going to roll anything out, they want to roll it out together as one package to push out. Because logistics-wise, that's what makes sense, because it's cheaper to ship everything on one boat rather than 3 separate boats. Do you get my meaning? It's cheaper for them to just put everything on one boat, send it, rather than 2 or 3 separate boats, because it's just way more expensive for them to try to accomplish that. So no, I think we'll only see something like that once Clone Wars actually comes out. I've heard of Dumpster Fire. It really interests me. I'm in the weird spot of being away from work, so I'm missing 95% of my collection as I couldn't bring it. I've got a Starhawk, and I'm hoping to focus on it. I mean, if you've got your upgrade cards from the other expansions, you could definitely build something with Starhawk and like Squadrons. I ran like a Starhawk like rogue squadron with GR75 or 2. But it's just the Starhawk expansion. Oh man, you're missing a bunch of nice cards that you really kind of need. Wilhelm Anderson, Ultimate Quasar, Mahdi, Minister Tua, Flight Controllers, Boosted Comms, Reinforced Blast Doors, Command Bridge, Intensified Firepower. See what you're going for? It's cute. It's really cute. And by Command Bridge, I assume you mean Flag Bridge. Just all the that's just cute. Yeah, that's cute. I like what you're going for there. My Quasar Fire will never die. Scott Scott Jones. Well, my question's been answered before you even ask you all on top of it. Wedge Antilles. Regular ISD of the Chimera if you're a broke student and can only go for one. Regular ISD. Regular ISD comes with Mahdi. Mahdi's boring, but he's still a good commander. Just because I don't play Mahdi because I find him boring doesn't mean that he's worthless. Double Mahdi ISD kicked my ass at LVO because I made deployment errors and the other guy didn't. So, I mean, I killed one double Mahdi ISD list. I tabled the guy. And the next guy I ran into was double Mahdi ISD that actually was optimized, and he rickrolled me because I didn't play right. Otherwise, I would have gotten him too, but it's just that's how it is in Armada. If you don't play perfectly, you lose. Speaking of Clone Wars, if you were designing the Republic and Separatists, how would you do it? Oh man, I'm not a game designer. I'll be honest with you guys. Like, rules are kind of my bag. Like, typing stuff up, laying everything out for other people to see and figure out. Like, design-wise, like, it's too open to interpretation. Like, the one way I want to see General Kenobi is he boards your command ship and says hello there, and then he doesn't do anything else. That's General Kenobi. He boards your command ship, he says hello there, and then that's it. That's his commander ability. But somebody else, maybe they want him to do something different. I don't know. I don't design stuff. I mean, I can definitely get ideas rolling if people are pitching stuff to me. Like, I'm a soundboard. I can definitely soundboard, but coming up with my own unique ideas, I'm just not very good at that. That's not. I mean, I could definitely throw a bunch of stuff out on the wall and see what sticks, but that doesn't mean that it's any good. That's why there's entire teams that create this content. I mean, you're gonna see the standard, what's in the whatever you've seen in the Star Wars Clone Wars TV show. I'm sure that's what's gonna be in Armada because that stuff is already established. We probably will not see the droid control ship, because it would have to be a huge ship, and FFG has already said, like, guys, we're not doing another huge ship for a very, very, very long time because it was so resource intensive and it set their whole production line back. So they're not keen on doing another huge ship anytime soon unless they know that they can make it and it will sell for lots and lots of money. Speaking of that, though, on a going off on a tangent, there are no more SSDs available. I mean, you might still be able to find some here or there. FFG doesn't have any more Superstar Destroyers in warehouse. They're gone. They're all gone. There's none left. They literally cannot send out anymore, and they're not gonna do a reprint anytime soon, guys. They're not. They're not gonna do a reprint anytime soon. Because why? Clone Wars comes out the end of this year, right? It means they're prepping and getting ready for that. Where in that timetable is gonna be room for a Super Star Destroyer? There's not gonna be. So if you don't have an SSD, plan on getting one soon because once they're gone, guys. There will be no more SSDs for quite some time. They're gone. There's no more in the warehouse. Like I said, you can find them still at distributors' warehouses. You will not find them in the FFG warehouse. They're gone. No more. Which has completely blown away FFG, by the way. They had no idea that they were going to run out. They did not anticipate that they would run out anytime soon. They didn't think they were going to sell them all. Which is great news for Armada. It shows people want Armada, and a lot of people did buy them just as model pieces because it's $200 for a ship of that size, that well detailed. You can't pay somebody to 3D print you anything better. You're looking at $500, $600. I mean, I know why they sold. It's for collectors. It's not for players of the game. But yeah, they're all gone. So in terms of designing and stuff like that, yeah, I'm too bad at that. Cameron, I've got my cards currently looking at a 4-ship list based around a Starhawk and MC-30. Good, that's a good start. Then some squads. It'll be fun playing without infinite choices again, having to play and find ways to make it work. Good luck to you, sir. I salute you. I carry my upgrade card book everywhere I go, practically. Yeah, man, like that is kind of part of the fun. It's just like, man, I only have this. I don't have everything. What can I make work? And for people that are forced to do that, I mean, congratulations to you. You're doing something that I can't do. I mean, I have to play with everything in the toolkit, and I have to have everything in the toolkit. Like, that's just me. I buy everything because I don't want to be limited. I want to have my options. Wilhelm, you can say it again, brother. You got to know your fleet in and out. Yep. You just practice, practice, practice. Like, something that people will try to say is, oh, just net list. Just net list. Just net list. There are people who have net listed dumpster fire and lose horribly because they're like, I don't understand how this fleet works. All I do is lose. Well, yeah, because you haven't practiced with it. Schmitty, I mean, I played against Schmitty's dumpster fire back before it was even called dumpster fire when he was trying to figure out how to make it work. He lost a lot before he finally figured it out. And then when he figured it out, I lost a lot. So it's just practice, practice, practice. Just knowing your fleet in and out, what it can do, what it can't do, what can it take on, when you should bounce, when you should, as Radis would say, press the attack. There's no turning back now. That kind of stuff that just comes down to the time on the table. You got to play the game. Leads to crazy fun stuff with rarely used cards. It does. Mega Archidons. Sonoma Valence. Which would you probably use? Ignition Arcs. So no male violence, which would probably use. Oh, I see what you're saying. I don't know. I don't know how to answer that question. I can't answer that question. I'm sorry. I would assume it would have ignition arcs. I don't know. Do you think Corona Nav 7 or the coronavirus will be affecting shipping for FFG? Yeah. It's killed everybody, guys. Everybody. Any board game company that's got product in China is losing, is just toilet money flush. I saw a picture the other day of emissions that in China. So China typically is like a dark red of emissions for pollution. They took a picture from space this past week. It's clear. They've shut down everything. Factories all shut down. They've been shut down almost since the Chinese New Year, which means nothing's being printed, nothing's being put together, nothing is shipping, nothing is going anywhere. So I will be honest with you. I know that FFG was like, yeah, Clone Wars, end of 2020. That's out the window, guys. That's not going to happen. We are probably looking maybe Q2 of 2021 now, if not later. I don't see them being able to keep. It's not their fault. It is what it is. But there's no way we're seeing Clone Wars end of this year. Absolutely not. Not with all the factories shut down. So yeah, coronavirus is absolutely affecting everybody. Mega Archidons, Madi skilled. Works of Ultimate Quasars. Oh my gosh, you guys are crazy. You're doing more crazy stuff than I would even do. Cameron, my SSD is on my desk at work just for show. Been a great talking piece. I think the Starhawk will join it once I'm home and can go back to my MC-80 carrier B-Wing Swarm. Yeah, man, Starhawk, I can't believe the detail on the Starhawk. Like, blown away by the level of detail on the Starhawk. Like, I can't believe how much extra they spent. And like for me, like the extra price point, part of that is just inflation, part of that is just the trade war. But part of it is just like, hey, we're already making them spend $60 on a piece. Why not spend a little bit more and make that piece just absolutely gorgeous? The Starhawk is the most beautifully 3D printed thing they've put out. It's just gorgeous. The level of detail on it is insane. Totally worth the price point, in my opinion. If all you do is collect plastic, that is the most beautiful piece of plastic you can have on a desk. Where's the part about copying cards? I mean, you can always show up proxy cards to casual games or casual tournaments. At official tournaments, you can't bring copied material. You have to physically have the card. Lunch break is over. Thank you so much. Hope to catch you another one of your live streams. Thanks, Wedge. I will try to do more. I mean, if nothing else, I'm going to be live streaming at Worlds. I'll be live streaming the games. Hopefully with commentary, not from me, because I'll be judging. It's killed everybody. Yes, everyone in China is dead. The coronavirus has killed everybody. I didn't think you're talking about board games. All right. I think I've been doing this for like at least an hour. Sometime. How long have I been doing this? Does it say on here? Nope. Does it say on here? I know I've been talking for a really long time. Oh, here we go. Oh yeah, hour and a half. Oh yeah, that was way longer than I thought I was going to be talking. You're really hoping for Interdictor Star Destroyer from the Thrawn books instead of the Onager. I mean, we technically already have the Interdictor. That's the canon Interdictor as Disney defines it. Anyway, I'm gonna wrap this up. I'm talking for an hour and a half. I'm hungry. I came home from work, jumped on this to put the live stream out. You guys are great. If you have questions or anything about anything from the FAQ or otherwise, you can always join me on my Discord. I'll put that link up on the video later. Or if you go check out any other videos, if you read the description, the link on my Discord's in there. You can come hang out in there. Or if you go to the Star Wars Armada Discord, I hang out on there. If you have questions, you can even go to the FFG rules forums, post things there, or otherwise PM me. You guys are great. I'm looking forward to Worlds. If you're going to be there, be sure to come up, say hello to me. I love having people just come up and say, hey, are you the guy that does the thing? I'm like, yeah, I'm the guy that does the thing, you know? So you guys are great. And yeah, you all have a good night.